even though in the ancient world people cared if you wore purple or not because it was the emperor's color. And then now today we care about wearing a different color on a garment. Of course, we don't care about the same color, but we care about wearing the color because of what that sort of signals socially and evolutionarily about your social status in the group and also your access to resources. And if suddenly in the world there was an incredible, unexplainable shortage of the components that are needed to make the color turquoise or a specific shade of orange, then I'm sure that all the garments that had that color would radically increase in price, and suddenly it would be a craze over getting this specific color. And if you saw somebody wear it, that would sort of stimulate a certain reaction, certain perception that you would have of that person. So it's all about the perennialism of humanity and of human, rather it's the perennialism of human culture and human civilizations because of the permanence of human nature. That's why I'm such a big fan of evolution and evolutionary thinking and Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection, just as a method of understanding higher order phenomena that are not maybe directly related to biology or what you think of as studying in a class of biology, because such as culture or economics, because or geopolitics or diplomacy, because these industries and these human vocations and occupations or preoccupations are, they're all controlled and sort of the frame for which they are set, the frame in which they are engaged in is set by biology and evolution, even though we don't think of them as that. And that's why I think it's such a useful maxim, and sort of like if you think about the Rosetta Stone for decoding the hieroglyphics of ancient Egypt, of their language, is sort of like the tool that you use to understand something. It's like the reading glasses, the language that you use to understand something. And evolution just does that for human activity and for human psychology, and even for interpersonal relationships. Perhaps that's where it's the most applicable, um, even though it's might be a little bit taboo to think about such sentimental things as friendship and your connections with family and heritage and sort of how close knit you are with people in these really sentimental topics, and sort of reduce it down in a reductionist way to, oh, it's all about biology, it's all about wanting to reproduce, and it's all about producing these chemicals in your brain that make you want to act in that way. You don't actually care about your children. It's just that you were evolutionary programmed to care about your offspring surviving to the next generation. You don't actually love them unconditionally. You love them according to the conditions set by biology. And that's why you don't love a far flung stranger, because you were not programmed for that. Whereas, presumably, it would be materially possible for a gene to be encoded that every member of your same species that you meet, you would have an intrinsic emotional connection to, and that forcibly like coerces you biologically, neurophysiologically to respect them and like them and have love for them as much as you love a child. That's conceivable with genes. The existence of genes as they are, and that they can encode for different proteins to create different things, which all of animal life is a testament to. That shows that um, that is feasible, and yet that's not what we feel. What we feel is only that type of love towards our children, but that only proves that it's not a choice, and that it could just as easily not have been that way. So wherein there is the sort of the objective justification for it, does it have any inherent value? If something theoretically can be changed, does it still have value? Perhaps it does, merely because it is so. It matters that you love your children because you love your children. But then if it's not contingent upon anything else, if it's just that, well, it's sort of the opposite, right? It's only contingent on the genes, and it's fully changeable, fully fickle, fully mercurial, depending on material reality. It could just as easily be changed, and that sort of removes the permanence of it. And anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but the point is sort of that it's just amazing how human beings act, and we act as if the way that we conceive of the world, that biology has shaped us to conceive of the world and to act in the world. We act as if that is the only reality. That makes sense, because that is our only reality. That is how we are programmed. But there exists the objective world outside of that, which is sort of untarnished by our perceptions, our heavily biologically influenced perceptions of things. And that somehow is something that I find incredibly interesting to think about. Just what lies beyond the scope of human preconceived conceptions. What lies beyond what is dictated by biology. And I guess that's sort of what I wanted to talk to you about today. So, thank you for listening. And let me know if you have any other topics you're interested in, or if you have questions or pushback on some of the proverbial planks that I walked down on today, to inevitably be pushed off the ledge into the cold water below where the sharks will eat me. Um, Let me know if you have any pushback against these thoughts, which is only what they are. They're not definitive arguments. They're sort of a representation of a stream of consciousness about what it is to be human, and the conflict and the tension between realizing the reality that we live in, and yet somehow still thinking about the reality that's not determined or steered by the biologically shaped reality that we always live in, that we're always shaped by, because we live in these brains, in these physical bodies, in these mammal bodies. And that tension, and sort of focusing on that other part, the broader, the universal questions, that is always what has kindled my interest and my fascination, and that's sort of where I choose to live my life. So let me know if you have any pushback on those perspectives that I offer today. Thank you for listening.